Making Brad Pitt regret how Angelina Jolie turned personal pain into her children's quiet triumph. In popular memory, some stories are simplified until they lose their meaning. This is one of them. To many, the separation of Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie is remembered as a celebrity divorce, dramatic, prolonged, and endlessly analyzed. But beyond the headlines, the legal filings, and the public speculation, there exists a deeper and far more consequential narrative. This documentary is not about assigning blame. It is about examining what happens after a public collapse and how one parent's response to loss can quietly reshape the future of an entire family. For years, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie represented more than a relationship. They symbolized a modern ideal, two globally recognized figures united not only by fame but by humanitarian purpose, shared values, and a large multicultural family. Their life appeared expansive, mobile, and principled. 6 children raised across borders, homes that reflected global citizenship rather than Hollywood excess. When the marriage ended, it did so under intense scrutiny. The separation was not brief nor discreet. Legal disputes extended for years, accompanied by public speculation and emotional narratives on both sides. Yet while public attention remained fixed on conflict, a quieter transformation was taking place, one that would ultimately matter far more than any ruling or settlement. For Angelina Jolie, the end of the marriage marked a decisive shift. Her public identity, long shaped by acting and activism, began to narrow in focus. Where once her career and humanitarian work shared equal space, motherhood moved decisively to the center. This was not a symbolic change, it was structural. Professional commitments were reduced, schedules were rebuilt, geography became flexible, dictated not by opportunity but by necessity. At a time when many public figures seek to reclaim control of the narrative, Jolie did the opposite. She allowed uncertainty to exist. She spoke sparingly. She resisted the instinct to publicly define events in her own favor. Silence in this context was not retreat, it was strategy. Psychologists often note that during periods of upheaval, children seek one thing above all else: predictability. Jolie's response reflected this understanding. Rather than insulating her children from reality, she reframed it, explaining change without dramatizing it, acknowledging difficulty without allowing it to dominate daily life. Homes were structured around routine. Education became a priority not only academically but culturally. Travel was purposeful, designed to build awareness rather than escape. The children were not encouraged to participate in celebrity culture. They were not placed at the center of public narratives. Their privacy was treated not as an inconvenience but as a responsibility. In an environment where visibility is often currency, Jolie chose invisibility. For them, in Hollywood, success is often measured through visibility: awards, roles, influence. Jolie began measuring success differently. Success became emotional regulation rather than public validation, consistency rather than spectacle, long-term development rather than short-term reassurance. She declined opportunities that would have increased her profile but disrupted routine. She accepted misunderstanding as a trade-off for continuity. This recalibration did not generate headlines, but over time it produced something more enduring: emotional grounding. Children rarely articulate what they need during periods of conflict. Instead, they observe. They observe who remains emotionally available, who listens, who responds without defensiveness. Over time, these observations form conclusions, not consciously but instinctively. Jolie's role became defined by presence, not perfection, not control, presence. She attended the moments that never make headlines. She absorbed frustration without redirecting it. She allowed emotional space without rushing resolution. Trust, built this way, does not require enforcement. It accumulates naturally. Distance in family relationships rarely appears suddenly. It forms gradually, through missed moments rather than major events. Legal processes move forward. Public narratives evolve. But childhood does not pause. For any parent, time spent apart during formative years carries a cost that cannot be recalculated later. Regret, in this sense, is not dramatic. It does not announce itself. It exists quietly, in photographs not taken, in routines not shared, in emotional familiarity that never fully forms. These are losses that no career achievement can replace. Angelina Jolie did not emerge from this chapter with a public victory. There was no definitive ending, no symbolic triumph. What emerged instead was continuity. Her children grew without being publicly defined by conflict. They developed identities not anchored in scandal but in experience. They learned to navigate the world without being consumed by its attention. This outcome was not accidental. It was the result of sustained, often invisible effort. Personal pain often produces one of two outcomes: fragmentation or growth. Jolie's response suggests a third option: redirection. Rather than allowing loss to collapse her sense of self, she used it to clarify priorities. Rather than framing the past as injustice, she treated it as information. This approach did not eliminate suffering, it transformed its function. Pain became a catalyst, rather than a conclusion. Public figures often pursue redemption through visibility, interviews, projects, reinvention. But redemption within a family operates under different rules. It requires time that cannot be recovered, consistency that cannot be declared, trust that cannot be demanded. Where public forgiveness may be negotiated, private reconciliation must be earned, slowly, quietly, and without guarantees. Years after the separation, the story continues to evolve. Careers shift, public interest fluctuates, legal matters progress, but the most significant outcome has already taken shape. In adulthood emerging from childhood, shaped less by conflict than by containment. This is not a story about blame, it is a study of consequence. When families fracture in public, attention gravitates towards spectacle, but the most important work happens afterward, unseen. In this case, one parent responded to loss by narrowing focus, reducing noise and prioritizing continuity, not to punish, not to compete, but to protect. And sometimes, the deepest form of regret is not inflicted by another person, it is created by time itself. Because time, once passed, does not negotiate.